Hey everybody, Seb here from Inspirational Pixels, and in this quick tip video I want to show you a couple of tweaks you can make in Sublime Text 3. So let's open up Sublime Text, and the first thing we're going to do is open up the default settings, which you can get to by going to Preferences, Settings and Default. So from here you can see all the default settings in Sublime Text that you can change and customize yourself. So to do that you want to go to Preferences, Settings and User. Now what you see here are all the custom settings that I've set up myself, and this is what yours should look like once you've added your own stuff. First let's have a look at the font size. Now as you can imagine, different fonts work better at different sizes. Now on my screen I use a font called Consulas because it's monospaced and it makes it really good for coding. So for the font size what you can do is just click to change, so let's change that to 15. As you can see it's a little bit too big, but for this example it's fine. There is also another way to change it. So if we change that back, you can actually hold Control and the scroll button on your mouse, and it'll actually increase the size of the font and automatically change it and save it in the settings, which is pretty helpful. The next thing we want to look at is the line height. Now in Sublime Text it's called line padding, and you get that at the top and the bottom. So let's first of all open up a file so we can actually see that in action. Now as you can see I've got my line height set that I use all the time in Sublime Text, but if I wanted to make that a little bit tighter I could change these both to 2, and we'll go back, and there you go, it's a little bit tighter in the file. Now for me that's not great, I prefer it to be more spaced out, like so. What you'll also notice is as you change things in the settings file, they also update straight away, so you don't always have to open up a coded file to see the changes. The next thing I want to show you is scroll past end. Now if you come to this file and scroll right to the bottom, as you can see you have got a lot of space at the bottom, so you can bring the bottom of the actual file up near the top of the screen. Now if I was to change that to false and save it, we go back, as you can see you can't scroll the bottom of the file further than the bottom of the screen. Now personally I prefer this to be on true, which is the default setting, but I've just got it here to show you as an example, because I find it just makes it a lot easier to code when I can bring that up here and I can read it better at eye height. Next is the tab size. Now if you go down here to the right you can change the tab size, say to 7 or 2. Now personally I prefer it being at 4, because I find in big files like the functions file of a WordPress theme, as this is, it just makes it easier to see the functions and the if-else statements and so on. Another thing that I like is I prefer having actual tabs instead of spaces. So if we go down here and we change convert indentation to spaces, you'll see that as I highlight these are all spaces which I can just change like so. Now personally I prefer actual tabs, as you can see it different there, because I find it just keeps things in order more. Now you can actually set this as the default by putting translate spaces to tabs, which means that spaces, where applicable, will always be changed to tab spaces. The last thing I want to have a quick look at is Wordwrap. Now in a file like this, the functions file, there aren't a lot of long strings of text, but if we open up a different file, for example this one, and we minimize the code editor, as you can see here the text wraps, for example around the title tag. Now if I change that to false, which I believe is the default, you can see that we get this horizontal scroll bar at the bottom. Now that's good in some cases, and obviously on my screen it is 1920 by 1080, so it's not really a problem. However, when you've got big paragraphs of text, it can be a little bit annoying if you can't see everything at a glance. So I just prefer having that set to true. So if we go back and minimize our editor, you can see it wraps. So those are the things I change in my Sublime Text settings. But if we go back to the default file, you'll see that we have all these different options to choose from. And if you look over here in the small sidebar magnification window, you can see that there are probably about 100 settings that you can change. So if we scroll through, we'll have a look at a couple of things you might want to change yourself. You can have a spell checker. That's pretty good on markdown files or txt files when you're just writing, for example, a blog post or some copy for the website. Another good thing to have on this true is smart indent. That's good because it'll automatically indent your files as you're coding it, so you don't have to worry about doing it yourself. It might seem a little bit lazy, but it does come in handy when you're writing big PHP files or JavaScript. Let's see what else we've got here. You've got highlight line, which is quite handy. So if we change, we can't change it to true in the default file. If we go to our user file and we change that to true, you can see that it'll actually highlight the line you're on. You know what, I actually quite like that, so I think I'm going to leave it in. And if we scroll down, we'll look for one more setting to change. Now another great thing I like to have set to true all the time, which comes as default anyway, is autocomplete. Now that's really helpful when you're typing out code, so I'll give you an example. Say you start a paragraph, you can type P and tab, and that'll automatically set the tags for you. That's really helpful when you want to do, for example, a div. So if we just do that, and there you go. I hope this quick video has shown you just how much you can customize the look and feel of Sublime Text. On my computer I'm actually using version 3, but all these things work just as well in version 2. I haven't touched on things like themes and plugins, but I'll link to a couple of tutorials that show you how to do those things. In my version of Sublime Text I'm also using a custom theme, but the theme doesn't really make much of a difference when it comes to the functionality. Thanks for watching this quick tip video on inspirationalpixels.com, and I'll see you next time.